Welcome to the first episode of 2021 of Touchline Talk with Odds Changer, where we'll be discussing all the latest news and speculation from the Premier League, the EFL and the rest of the world. As usual, I'm joined by football broadcaster, writer and general man in the know, Dean Jones, to dissect all the latest news and rumours on the grapevine, and we'll see what is going to happen in this January transfer window. Happy New Year to you, Dean, and the family. Hope you had a good one.
Happy New Year, mate. Yep, very good Christmas, thank you. Obviously, lots of football watched and just preparing myself for a transfer window. So, same old, really.
Good. Keeping busy. One man that's not been a happy New Year so far is Chelsea manager Frank Lampard, who is now the new favourite to be the next league manager to lose his job after that 3-1 demolition job by Manchester City on Sunday. That made it 4 defeats out of the last 6 for Chelsea. I think only West Brom and Sheffield United have lost more games over the last few weeks as well. So the pressure's starting to build on Lampard right now. We all know Roman Abramovich is not the most forgiving or patient of owners. And again, he's not one of those people who shows sentimentality to his ex-players or ex-managers. Just ask Jose Mourinho, I suppose. But Dean, do you think Lampard is under serious pressure of maybe losing his job?
I think he is, yeah, because I think that when Roman Abramovich invests over 200 million in a squad in a transfer window, he expects results. You know, he's a businessman first and foremost, and he wants to see, an investment like that. He wants to see a return from it pretty instantly. And obviously he would have understood that there would have been some time to gel, but I think also he would expect that in a season like this, everything's open. There's opportunity for Chelsea to go for the title, to win trophies, because everything's just so weird, and there's a gap opens up, and Chelsea have got such a deep squad full of quality that they should be competing. And I think from Lampard's point of view, it's pretty difficult one. Your point, Lampard, he's basically a derby manager who's just a legend. And if you're going to appoint him, you have to expect that he's not going to be the perfect coach. Otherwise, you don't go and get him. You go and spend the money on the best coach in the world that's available in that moment. They didn't do that. They turned to a legend. Now, was that to just placate the fans after Mauricio Sarri and please them? Or did they genuinely believe in Frank Lampard? Because if they believed in Frank Lampard, they have to show faith in him right now and loyalty and give him the chance to get over this blip. Because when Lampard came into this job, it was a completely different job, and it was all about merging youth talent and promoting them and getting the best out of them and motivating them, inspiring them. And now he's got a totally different job because they've bought elite talent who are expected to go on and become some of the best players in the world, and they want games right now. And Lampard can't keep all these players happy. Now, obviously, there are questions over his team selection and tactics, and also, his personal relationships with some of the players in this squad. That's always going to happen when you start having players not playing. Lampard's got to deal with that. He's got to deal with it well. But most importantly, from his point of view, he does have to start producing results, because I just can't see Abramovich and Chelsea being patient with him, because it's just not something they typically do.
Yeah, as you said, just going back to when they lost to Everton on December the 12th, that ended a 17-game unbeaten run when a lot of people were getting excited about Chelsea and Lampard, thinking a real serious title challenge is coming on. Obviously, that's gone off the rail in recent weeks, but they're only 3 points off Tottenham, I think, Chelsea as well. So this league's just been so up and down, anything can happen. But like you said, some worrying statistics for Frank Lampard. Just saw some stats saying he has the worst points per game ratio of any Chelsea manager under Abramovich, and we know what he normally does with managers. He just spits them out and chews them up, and they're gone. So
I'm not convinced by those stats, to be honest. I was looking at them too myself, and the problem with stats like that in ratioing them is that Lampard has now played more games than the ones above him, say like VS Boas and managers play like that. They got to 20, 30 games. And if you compared how Lampard was doing after 20, 30 games, well, he was doing much better than them. He would have had a higher points ratio. But it's only in the past few weeks that ratio has dropped off. And that's because he's going through a dip in form. Those other managers that went through longer spells in charge would also have had dips in form when their points ratio didn't look so great. It's just the way it works. I don't really like those tables, to be honest. You need to put them all on a par if you're going to study them, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, I'd agree on that one. Lampard did his job last year. He got Chelsea back in the Champions League, finishing in the top 4. I think that was the minimum. Obviously, expectations have grown since that. and especially with the money that Abramovich allowed Lampard to spend in the transfer market, Chelsea were the biggest spenders with some of their signings. They've obviously qualified for the last 16 in the Champions League. Big game coming up against Atletico Madrid in February, I think. If the league form wasn't to pick up and if they were to lose that game to Atletico, I think serious question marks will be raised about Lampard, and maybe we might see a change then.
Yeah, definitely. Look, Chelsea are considering who else is out there right now, and I think that that's fair. Like, they probably wouldn't be running the club properly if they weren't doing that, always looking at who's around. And I think probably the fact that Thomas Tuchel's become available has made them think especially hard, because Tuchel's contract was up at the end of the season. And I think they probably would have had in the back of their mind that he's the sort of manager that could certainly step in with his squad of players and do a good job with them. It looked like he might see out the season at PSG, but it hasn't happened, and now he's available. So he won't be on the market for very long, because other clubs are going to sack their managers, and he'll be offered, a job, I'd imagine, within the next month or two.
Yeah, obviously a lot of talk coming out of Germany, Dean, linking Thomas Tuchel with the Chelsea job as well. And when those sounds come out from Germany, it is a bit worrying, I think, for Frank Lampard, that maybe there's more to the speculation than just what's coming out of Germany. But he would be a good fit as well. I think he's managed some top players. He's able to work with top clubs as well, like Dortmund and PSG. He's got Champions League experience. So I'm sure he would love the chance to come and manage in the Premier League at such a big club like Chelsea as well. But also, like you mentioned also as well, Max Allegri is available. He's been taking English lessons for a while now as well, and he's got a great pedigree as well. So if Chelsea were to push the button and get rid of Frank Lampard, I'm sure there'll be a lot of top managers looking at that job, because the squad there is there to go and challenge for a Premier League title as well. And like we said, Lampard was backed in the transfer market in the summer. Do you think Abramovich would dip into his pockets again and maybe help Lampard spend his way out of trouble in January?
I doubt it. There's no real signs of it. I mean, from Lampard's point of view, I think on the transfer thing, his argument might be, well, I didn't ask for all these players. I didn't want all of them. Like, particularly Kai Havertz, who, he is a great player and he's going to be a real top player. But Lampard would have preferred Declan Rice. Like, that was the area of his team that he wanted strengthening, and that was the specific player that he asked for in the last transfer window. And he didn't get him, and he still wants him. So if he was to really back Lampard, then that's who he would go out and let him sign. I think it's going to be difficult. West Ham obviously don't want to sell him, and I don't see any signs that that is actually going to happen. But I think that would be a real show of faith. But yeah, from Lampard's side of things, I think he could argue that, well, I didn't ask for you to spend over £200 million on this squad. Thank you, but it kind of hasn't really helped him in many ways.
Yeah, only a few of those signings have paid off so far. Probably Ben Chilwell and Thiago Silva.
Mendy as well, obviously, the keeper, yeah.
Yeah, Mendy's done okay, but I think he's going for a bit more criticism lately with some of the... He came in, kept lots of clean sheets straight away, but I think for the first goal against Manchester City, he probably maybe could have done better as well. But yeah, obviously when you're losing games, you do come under the microscope, and that's what's happening with Frank Lampard and his signings right now. Another manager who we all know who's come under the microscope in the past and has been in the news for lots of reasons after leaving Tottenham 13 months ago is Mauricio Pochettino, but he is now back in management at his former club, PSG. It finally ends all those rumours of Pochettino to Manchester United for at least 18 months, maybe, or maybe less, Dean, so we don't have to talk about that anymore. But do you think this is a good fit for Pochettino to go back to PSG?
I do think this is a really nice fit. Yeah, I think it really suits Pochettino, because it's not quite the profile of a Man United where, you're just waiting for him to fail, basically. At PSG, I think in terms of, how you'll be scrutinised from a global perspective, it might not be quite as intense. It'll also be a lot easier to be successful because there's not the same level of competition domestically. But obviously he will be judged on how he does in the Champions League, and in light of that, they've given him a pretty short contract initially, although it does extend to go on for another year. So let's see what he can achieve. I think obviously he's got attachment to the club as well from his playing days. They want him to go in there and kind of set the same philosophy and playing style as he was able to do at Tottenham. So that pressing game, and everything that he was able to do. I'm not sure PSG have the exact players available to do that. They don't have the same type of forward players that are going to do that. They don't have the same type of fullbacks that are going to set the pace and the tone of a game like they had at Tottenham. So he's going to also have to look at the transfer market and see if he can identify 2 or 3 players that can just slightly alter that squad to make it a bit more of a Pochettino side, because at the moment it's not quite ready for him, I don't think.
Yeah, talking of the transfer market then, are we expecting him to return to the Premier League and possibly raid his former club Spurs? Like I said, Dele Alli's obviously been strongly linked with PSG for the last couple of transfer windows, still not really getting much of a kick at Tottenham under Jose Mourinho. And I know you've written also as well about possibly Hugo Lloris being a target for Pochettino at PSG as well. What's your latest on those two, Dele Alli and Hugo Lloris?
Yeah, well, Dele makes a lot more sense now than when he was originally touted to go to PSG. They tried to sign him in the summer, and Daniel Levy said no. Daniel Levy doesn't want to sell Dele Alli even now. He would rather he goes out on loan because he still thinks he holds a lot of value. I still think he's a good player. But to go and recapture his form at PSG under Pochettino makes loads of sense all around. The player could be happy again. He could have a chance of making England's squad in the summer. And also it gives him a chance to get back in the form that gives him a chance to make his career really work out at Tottenham again. So I think a loan to PSG is certainly being discussed, and it's something that could potentially happen there. In terms of Hugo Lloris, I mean, that's not really one for this January window. That's just something that PSG are going to look at for the summer. Which you're told by a couple of sources, like just beware, like definitely Hugo Lloris is going to be linked with that move. And I think actually I wrote that, and then 2 days later Hugo Lloris was linked with that move. So it's one note that's going to run on a bit. People will say, well, you're just saying it because he's a France international, but there's a bit more to it than that. But yeah, let's see what else he's able to do. I mean, Christian Eriksen, he's obviously been linked with, and that's going to prove difficult because they wanted to do a swap deal with Paredes, and I'm not sure that exact swap deal is going to happen now. So Eriksen's going to have other options open up. I do think that Pochettino might try and sign a fullback, I have to say. I don't know who that is, but he's definitely analysing that position.
Yeah, it's obviously a position that he wants to improve that PSG squad in as well. And looking at the bigger picture ahead of the summer, and obviously he's had a contract in the summer and able to talk to foreign clubs right now, is Lionel Messi. Does this Pochettino move to PSG increase the possibility that Lionel Messi could end up at PSG rather than Manchester City next summer if he is to leave Barcelona?
I don't think so. No, I don't think the Pochettino factor is particularly going to influence Messi. As it stands right now, he can talk to other clubs, but he's not really entertaining that idea. He doesn't want to leave Barcelona. He wants to see what happens with the presidential situation, see who's elected, and then make a decision on the back of that. Messi's not the type of player that needs to go around touting himself and talking to other clubs and say, look, I could do a job for you. Everyone's perfectly aware of what Messi could do, and it's up to them to put the package in front of him, whether that's PSG or Man City, to convince him. So I think Messi, from what I'm told anyway, is perfectly comfortable with how things are right now. He's not going to rush into talks with anybody until towards the end of the season, if he does decide that this Barcelona era just isn't for him.
Yeah, that one's going to probably drag on right on till the summer, after these presidential elections, when we will see where Lionel Messi go with his future, whether it's at Barcelona or somewhere else. There was obviously a managerial casualty over the busy festive period in the Football League. Probably the most surprising one was Tony Pulis sacked at Sheffield Wednesday after only 10 games in charge. We all know that Sheffield Wednesday have had a difficult season on and off the pitch, and Pulis was brought in to try and rescue them, but form wasn't great. But I still think even sacking him after such a short period of time was a surprise, Dean. Paul Cook is the current favourite for this job. Do you think he'd be the right man to replace Pulis? And do you think Pulis was maybe a bit unfairly treated here?
I think it's quite naive of the owner to appoint Tony Pulis on the basis that he did and then not expect Pulis to come to him with certain demand once he's in the job. I mean, Pulis might have said one thing in his interviews to help himself get that gig and then said other things afterwards, but that's pretty normal. And I mean, Pulis has been around in the game long enough that you should have been able to do background checks on him and know what is going to happen once he's in that in the hot seat. So I think that for Pulis to say to him, well, actually, these players aren't able to play my style of football. I'm going to need some signings. Pretty normal, to be honest. So, yeah, I think Sheffield Wednesday have got to be so careful, and they've got to get this next appointment right. It's becoming a little bit embarrassing now. I think from a club point of view, from a fan point of view, Paul Cook ticks a lot of boxes. I think he would please a lot of people. He is quite an infectious character. He's somebody that can motivate players, but he could also change the philosophy of a football team and a football club. So I think he would be a good appointment. Contact has been made over that one. Hasn't gone much further down the line than that now, and I don't think he's the only person that's been approached, but certainly Paul Cook's got a really good pedigree of this kind of level of football and of turning things around.
Yeah, Paul Cook, I think he was linked with the job quite strongly before Pulis got it. He was in the final three for the job then, so he might be the right man to turn to maybe get Sheffield Wednesday back on an even keel. But from what I'm hearing, the owner, Defin Chassiri, is reluctant to maybe employ another British manager right now after being stung by his last two appointments in Tony Pulis and Gary Monk. So that might count against Paul Cook. So maybe Chancery will look at the foreign options that are available to him as well. So it's not cut and dried by any means, this Sheffield Wednesday job right now. And who's to say the caretaker manager, Neil Thompson, doesn't have a go at it right now. He's won his first two games in charge against Middlesbrough and Derby to lift them out of the bottom three as well. So he's done a great job since taking over from Pulis as well. But like you said, Dean, it's been over 20 years since Sheffield Wednesday were in the Premier League. Still a big club with a big fan base. They need to get this next managerial choice right if they are to try and get back in among the top clubs in the Championship and be chasing for promotion to the Premier League as well. So we're in January. We all know what that means. The transfer window is back open, and obviously lots of rumours already doing the rounds on who could be going here, there or anywhere. Max Aarons was an interesting one just a few days ago. Dean, again, back on the radar of Manchester United, it seems, according to reports. We all know United are in the market for a new right back. They have been linked with Kieran Trippier, maybe to come in as well. But Max Aarons, it seems, is also on their list. What's your reading into this one?
Aarons is obviously somebody they are looking at. Everton are also interested in signing Max Aarons, but from what I'm told, Aarons knows that he could get a bigger move than going to Everton, so I don't expect them to have much chance of getting through the door. Obviously, Bayern Munich and Barcelona have also been linked with him, so that's the kind of that's what he's been hearing. He's not suddenly going to go to Everton, I don't think. But from a Norwich point of view, they're not really interested in any business in Max Aarons right now, so I do think it's going to be tough to sign him in January. Also, from a United point of view, Max Aarons has got a really high valuation there at Norwich. He's going to cost quite a lot of money. So to go and spend right now on competition for Aaron Wan-Bissaka doesn't really make that much sense to me, to be honest. I think that there are other areas of that squad that United could do with strengthening and then look at this one at the end of the season. Norwich obviously in a good position to get promoted as well, so they could try to convince him that he'll have other offers on the table at the end of the season. He knows that will be the case. How much game time is he going to get at United if he goes there halfway through a campaign? Probably not a lot, especially early on. I'm not sure I see it happening, although the interest is definitely there.
Yeah, I can't see a big money move like this happening in January. I'm sure United will keep him on their radar, ready for the summer, depending how well he does with Norwich. And like you said, Norwich in no real rush to sell him right now. They're trying to win promotion back to the Premier League. So I think this one should be on the back burner until the summer. And it's probably going to be a case of more ins or more outs than ins at Old Trafford this month, Dean. A number of fringe players looking likely to leave Manchester United. We've got the likes of Jesse Lingard, Marcus Rojo, Phil Jones, Brandon Williams, possibly all on the way out in January. What's your latest on Jesse Lingard? Obviously, United have taken up that option on his contract to extend it until 2022 just to safeguard them from him walking out on a free transfer. Still expect him to move this month though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I do. I mean, obviously that does kind of just make sure that his value holds a little better than it would have if they hadn't triggered that extension. So it makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't mean that he's suddenly in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plans, because he's not. I do think there's a good chance that Lingard goes. The only thing holding it back, I think, is probably the fact that he's Man United through and through. He's been at the club since he was 7 years old. So any move from him here is going to really hurt him, I think, because expected to play for Man United for his whole life. So it's going to have to be a really good offer. I think it will probably have to be under a regime where he knows people involved, so that he's not just taking a complete punt and joining a random manager or coach that's never worked under him before. I think those are the kind of things we should consider when looking at a player, Jesse Lingard, and whether he does leave United in this window. There's a lot of factors to consider, but certainly there's just no way of him playing this season at United, so it doesn't make any sense for him to stay.
Yeah, and obviously another player at Old Trafford not happy with his lack of first-team football this season is Brandon Williams, who's obviously been linked with a few clubs, the likes of Newcastle, Southampton, all interested in the left-back as well. You'd expect Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would let him move on with Telles and Luke Shaw ahead of him in the pecking order.
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, they didn't want to let him out, but that's kind of changed now. I think Southampton seem to be in a good position to sign him. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Brandon Williams gets a move to Southampton. I only see a loan, obviously, because I think that United do still have faith in him. But young player and getting game time at a club like Southampton would do him no harm at all.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good fit for everybody. He would get regular first-team football to help his development, and then go back to Old Trafford next season and challenge for a first-team spot in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side as well. Any other interesting transfer rumours catching your eye, Dean? Hamza Choudhury was one for me, being linked with Newcastle on a possible loan move. And interestingly enough, he was not in the Leicester squad that faced Newcastle yesterday. I'm a big fan of Choudhury, good midfielder, England under-21 international, likes a tackle as well. And I think somebody like that in the Newcastle midfield would be a good addition to Steve Bruce's side. And obviously, he's down the pecking order in Brendan Rodgers' plans right now. So maybe a loan move might suit all parties.
Yeah, that'd be a really nice signing for Newcastle, and it's kind of surprising, to be honest, that hasn't worked out for him at Leicester, because there have definitely been signs in his time there that he could be a really important player. So, yeah, that's an interesting one to look out for. I think for me, Tottenham is an area to really keep an eye on. Mourinho needs to be kind of clear out. Really, there's a few players there that just aren't fitting in with his plans. Danny Rose, I think he's going to have his contract terminated, from what I'm told. Gazaniga will go as well this month, and they're also obviously open to the likes of Dele leaving, possibly Harry Winks, Davinson Sanchez, even players like Eric Lamela now. If an offer was to land on the table for a player like that, then Tottenham would consider it. Mourinho wants to start to add a few more players that just fit in with him a bit more, and having the experience now, so winning mentality, and just bring something a bit new and fresh to this Tottenham squad. I was told that Ivan Perisic of Inter Milan is somebody that he really likes. Would love to get him in, but it's going to be really difficult because there's just no money around at the moment to spend. So possibly that could open up a deal like that anyway, that could just give them something new to help them in this second half of the season, when, if all things go to plan, they're going to be challenging, if not for the title, then at least a trophy somewhere.
Yeah, if Mourinho could bring in somebody to give him that little X factor and an extra edge in the title race, I'm sure Tottenham will be looking at it. But like you said, Dean, I think it's hard to do any big major deals this month, especially with the effects of COVID on clubs' finances as well. So I think clubs are already preparing for the summer, looking to see what they can do then when they've got longer to prepare for their summer transfer business as well. But yeah, we'll keep you across all the January moves and the latest news on the Grapevine as well. But that's us for this week on Touchline Talk. We'll be back next week for more insight and hopefully more news for you viewers. Thank you.